BitConnect?
BitConnect! Wow!
If you've ever seen a guy screaming BitConnect on stage like he's summoning demons, you've already met the face of one of crypto's most infamous scams. That man was Carlos Matos, and the company he was promoting was a billion-dollar Ponzi scheme dressed up as a crypto miracle. Launched in 2016, BitConnect claimed to be a lending platform. You'd send them your Bitcoin, and their secret trading bot would use market volatility to generate insane profits, up to 1% per day. They said it was automatic, passive income, zero risk. And for a while, it looked like it worked. BitConnect's token BCC skyrocketed from under $1 to nearly $500. It cracked the top 20 on CoinMarketCap. YouTubers were promoting it. Online forums were buzzing. People were mortgaging homes to buy in it. But there was no bot, no strategy. Just new money paying old users. Classic Ponzi structure. The founders, including Indian national Satish Kumbhani, remained anonymous for years. Behind the scenes, they manipulated the price of BCC and controlled the only exchange where it could be traded, keeping the whole thing under their thumb. The collapse came fast. In January 2018, after cease and desist orders from Texas and North Carolina regulators, BitConnect suddenly shut down its lending platform. The token crashed from nearly $500 to under $1 in days. People lost fortunes overnight. Kumbhani was later indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice in 2022 for orchestrating the scam and laundering over $2.4 billion in Bitcoin. He's still on the run. Meanwhile, other promoters have been charged or sued. And Carlos Matos? He became a meme, claimed he lost money too, and quietly disappeared from the spotlight. BitConnect didn't just steal money, it humiliated people. It showed how fast hype can turn into heartbreak, especially when wrapped in crypto jargon and fake tech. Steinhoff. If I told you one of the biggest financial scams of the 21st century involved discount shops and mattresses, you'd probably laugh. But Steinhoff wasn't funny. This was a $20 billion retail empire with brands like Poundland in the UK, Mattress Firm in the US, and Pep in South Africa. And at the center of it all was CEO Marcus Giusta, a man who looked like a straight-laced businessman, but was running one of the biggest accounting frauds Europe had ever seen. Here's what they did. Fake transactions between subsidiaries, made-up profits, and dodgy offshore entities. Many linked to Giusta's associate, Andreas Seifert. It made Steinhoff look wildly profitable on paper, while hiding billions in debt. In December 2017, Giusta suddenly resigned just before the company's financials were due. Within days, Steinhoff's stock crashed by over 90%. More than $7 billion in value was wiped out. South African pension funds were hammered. Lawsuits followed. So did international investigations. Giusta denied everything until March 2024, when he died by suicide hours after being notified of a pending arrest. A tragic ending to a fraud that hurt millions. And a brutal reminder, just because a company looks clean and boring doesn't mean it isn't hiding something ugly underneath. Lehnman Brothers. Everyone remembers 2008 as the year the world's economy nearly collapsed. But the match that lit the fire? A 158-year-old Wall Street giant called the Lehnman Brothers. This was no fly-by-night scam. Lehman was huge, one of the top 4 investment banks in the U.S., managing over $600 billion in assets. People trusted them. Governments trusted them. But behind the glossy reports and confident statements, they were playing with fire. Lehman was loaded with bad mortgage debt, subprime loans that were never going to be repaid. But instead of coming clean, they used an accounting trick called Repo 105. Here's how it worked. They'd sell billions in toxic assets to another firm just before reporting quarterly results, then quietly agree to buy them back days later. On paper, it looked like they'd reduced their debt. In reality, it was a temporary disguise. Their CEO, Dick Fuld, kept assuring the public that everything was under control. Meanwhile, inside the company, panic was building. Losses were mounting. Liquidity was vanishing. By September 2008, it all came crashing down. Lehman filed for bankruptcy, the largest in U.S. history, and the world went into freefall. Markets collapsed, credit froze, millions lost homes, jobs, and retirement savings. Entire countries were pulled into recession. And get this, no one from Lehman went to jail. All they did was stretch accounting rules until reality snapped. No stolen money. Just manipulated numbers, a lot of arrogance, and a global economic disaster as the final bill. Tom Petters. Tom Petters didn't look like a scammer. He looked like a CEO. He owned real companies, like Polaroid and Sun Country Airlines. His office was legit. His image was polished. But behind all that, just paper, literally. Petters ran one of the biggest Ponzi schemes in American history by doing something surprisingly low-tech. He created fake purchase orders and fake invoices for products that didn't exist. Then he showed them to investors, saying huge retailers like Costco and Sam's Club were buying electronics through him. They weren't. It was all made up. Investors poured in billions, thinking they were funding real product deals. In return, Petters promised high returns, backed by what looked like legitimate paperwork. The truth? There were no products, no buyers, no revenue. Just forged documents and a smooth sales pitch. And he kept it going for over a decade. The whole thing finally collapsed in 2008 when one of his closest associates flipped and wore a wire. Petters was recorded talking openly about the fraud, joking that he'd just make up another invoice. He was arrested, tried, and sentenced to 50 years in prison. The total damage? Over $3.6 billion. But what makes this scam wild isn't the number. It's how basic it was. No crypto, no offshore banks, no fancy AI. Just forged receipts and confidence. And for a while, that was enough to fool everyone. Scott Rosthstein. Scott Rosthstein had everything. A flashy law firm, Ferraris, luxury watches, private jets, and photos with celebrities. He wasn't just rich. He made sure everyone saw it, but all of it was funded by one giant lie. Here's how it worked. Rosthstein told investors he had access to legal settlements, big cases where plaintiffs had won millions and were willing to sell their payout for a discount in exchange for quick cash. Investors could buy in, and when the settlement money came through, they'd get a nice return. It sounded like a smart play, but there were no settlements, no plaintiffs, no cases. Rosthstein just made it all up. He forged court documents, faked signatures, even created fake email accounts pretending to be judges. Investors were shown what looked like airtight legal paperwork, when really Rosthstein was just moving money around in circles to keep the illusion alive. At one point, over $1.2 billion flowed through his fake settlement empire. He used the money to live like royalty, $6,000 dinners, watches worth more than houses, and political donations that gave him access to powerful people. And the bigger his life got, the more people trusted him, until it all crumbled in 2009. The scam collapsed when Rothstein's law firm couldn't pay back investors. He fled to Morocco, then came back days later and turned himself in. He's now serving a 50-year prison sentence. Alan Standford. This guy had it all. A private jet with his initials on the tail, a sprawling mansion, a cricket stadium with his name on it. He was a Texas-born billionaire who styled himself like a cross between Warren Buffett and James Bond. But behind the flash, he was running a $7 billion Ponzi scheme, one of the biggest in U.S. history. Stanford was the founder of Stanford International Bank, based in Antigua. Through it, he sold high-yield certificates of deposit, basically long-term savings products that promised steady, above-market returns. He claimed they were backed by safe, diversified investments. But none of that was true, and the bank's portfolio was mostly fiction. No real diversification, no real transparency. He was using new investors' money to pay old ones, while siphoning off hundreds of millions for himself. Lavish spending included yachts, private jets, Caribbean resorts, and bribes to Antiguan officials to keep regulators away. To the outside world, Stanford was a financial savior. He sponsored elite cricket tournaments, including a $20 million winner-takes-all match between England and a Caribbean all-star team. He posed with players, handed out cash prizes on the field, and broadcast it live. Even as late as 2008, he was being treated like a rock star, but the cracks were already forming. After the Madoff scandal broke, regulators began scrutinizing Stanford's numbers. In February 2009, the SEC charged him with fraud, alleging that his CDs were completely bogus and that he was running a textbook Ponzi scheme. The fallout was massive. Thousands of investors, many of them retirees, lost their life savings. Some had invested everything they had. Stanford claimed he was innocent, calling the charges political, but the evidence was overwhelming. In 2012, he was convicted on 13 counts, including wire fraud, mail fraud, and obstruction. He was sentenced to 110 years in prison. Unlike Madoff, Stanford didn't wear the quiet banker persona. He built an empire of spectacle and ego, bribing, bluffing, and buying his way into people's trust, and it worked, until the money ran out. Myanmar scam compounds. Most scams steal your money. This one steals your freedom. In Myanmar, and in parts of Cambodia and Laos, criminal networks are running massive online scam compounds. These aren't call centers, they're prisons. Thousands of people, many lured by fake job ads from countries like China, Thailand, India, and even Africa, are trafficked into these compounds. Once inside, they're held against their will, beaten, threatened, and forced to run online scams. Romance traps, crypto investment schemes, phishing attacks, fake trading apps. Their targets? Everyday people across the globe. The operations are brutal and organized. Workers are given scripts, quotas, and fake identities. If they don't scam enough money, they're tortured or sold to another compound like cattle. Escape is almost impossible. Armed guards, electric fences, constant surveillance. Some of these scam centers operate with the full knowledge or even protection of local militias and corrupt officials. It's human trafficking fused with cybercrime, scaled up into a billion-dollar black market. The victims on the outside think they're talking to a charming investor or a potential love interest, but the person on the other end is actually a prisoner, doing whatever they can to survive. It's estimated that these operations have already scammed billions of dollars globally, and yet barely make the headlines. This isn't a story about one fraudster or one stolen fortune. This is a system, an industry, built on lies, violence, and silence. And right now, it's still growing. Anna Delvey. She wore designer clothes, stayed in $1,500 a night hotel rooms, and tipped $100 in cash like it was loose change. Her name was Anna Delvey, or so everyone thought. In reality, she was Anna Sorokin, a Russian-born con artist pretending to be a German heiress worth tens of millions. She convinced New York's social elite, art collectors, investors, and even major banks that she was about to inherit a €60 million trust fund. Her goal? To launch an exclusive private arts club in Manhattan. And to do it, she needed money. Lots of it. She used fake bank statements, forged wire confirmations, and a confident, entitled attitude to bluff her way into nearly $275,000 in unpaid bills and services. Hotels let her stay for weeks without a working credit card. Friends paid thousands on her behalf, thinking she'd pay them back. One bank nearly gave her a $22 million loan. She even hired lawyers, consultants, and architects for a property she never owned. And the crazy part? She never really ran. She just kept delaying, deflecting, and pretending. People believed her because she looked the part. Eventually, it all caught up with her. In 2019, she was convicted of multiple counts of theft and grand larceny. She served almost 4 years in prison and became a media sensation after Netflix adapted her story into Inventing Anna. She's since been released but not deported. She's still in the US, still doing interviews and reportedly working on more media deals. Anna didn't use a spreadsheet. She didn't have crypto or fake investments. She scammed with pure confidence, luxury aesthetics, and a fake backstory. And that might be the scariest part, because if someone can make you believe they're rich, you'll treat them like they are. Until the bill arrives. Did you enjoy this breakdown? Then please subscribe and hit that button for more.